And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, proudly sitting in for Andy Webb today. And together, you and I, well, we're going to do some wonderful things together because I am going to help you understand this world of real estate investing. Now, the reason I'm sitting in Andy's chair today is because, well, Andy has something else he needs to do, and it's of importance to him. And since Andy is in complete control of his life, he can go do those things. You know, it's as simple as him picking up his phone, sending me a text going, "Hey, Al, can you do me a favor? Can you cover for me on my show tomorrow? My wife and I, we have something very important to do." And you know what I do is first thing I do is I look at the text and I go, "Yeah, I'd like to do that." Then I check my calendar and I go, "Hey, I'm like retired too. I have like white space in my calendar." So what do I tell Andy? Absolutely. Absolutely, I'll do your show for you. And what I want to bring up is the fact that Andy and I have arrived at a place that we want you to arrive at. We call that place retirement. We call that place achieving a location in your lifespan, in your timeline, however you measure time. There is a place that occurs somewhere in that timeline where you decide to retire. Now, sometimes this decision is made on your behalf. In my case, that decision was made on my behalf. I spent 27 years in the United States Army. I actually thought I would be spending 30 or more years in the United States Army, but the United States Army had a different plan for me. And as a result of a boarding action, because that's how the Army treats its personnel when it decides who they're going to retain and who they're going to let go, they put me through a boarding process because I was eligible for retirement, and that board determined that it was the best interest of the Army and the best interest of Al Gordon and his family to retire. And it was a problem. It was a huge problem because the problem I had was I had retired. Yeah, I had, in my mind, I had physically checked out of work. I was done. Just to give you an idea of what a 27-year career in the Army kind of came down to, the last 5 years that I served in the Army, I was literally gone, or I should say, away from home 4 of those years. Yeah, 4 of those years. Now, it wasn't like, I was here. I was gone for a year. I came home for 3 months. I was gone for a year. I came home for three months. It wasn't as defined as that. There was a lot of, I was gone for a year, I came home for a couple months, then I was gone for 3 weeks, I came home for a week, and I was gone for a month and a half. So that's how my life was. And that's how chaotic it became for my family. And when I finally achieved retirement based on the Army standard, I found out that there's another component to retirement, which is just as important as the not working piece. It's the financial piece. It's the, what am I going to do to make sure I can live the lifestyle I'm trying to live? And for me, that was a terrible place for me to be in, because what most people don't understand about retirements and pensions, military pensions, those pensions are really designed to pay you about a third of what you have been making on active duty. Now, active duty pays are, well, they're categorized in different ways. So you get salary, if you will, in the form of, we call basic pay. And then you get maybe a cost of subsistence. Well, I don't know what they call it today, but basically they pay you a certain amount of money so that you can feed yourself, because you may not have access to an Army messing or dining facility, if you will, right? And they may pay you money to live somewhere because maybe there's not enough available base housing, because that's part of what being in the military is. They take care of your feeding, they take care of your lodging, they take care of all the things, all your basic needs, because they want you focused on being a soldier. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's all these other pays that could come in. There's pro pay. I don't want to talk about all the different pays military pays, but the retirement pay is based on a percentage of your base pay. So all these other pays that you get, they are not calculated in to this formula. You get a percentage of whatever your base pay was, and that percentage is based on your number of years of service, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So you get a number. And for me, that number worked out to be about 1/3 of what I had been making on active duty. And the problem I had was when I was on active duty, we were spending every dime that I made to support our lifestyle, to support our household, because, well, that's just the way things were. You are tuning in expecting to hear my great buddy, Andy Webb. But Andy Webb has something else to do at the moment that is taking precedence over his desire to assist you with changing your life. So that ought to indicate to you that whatever it is Andy is doing right now, it's very, very important. Okay. And that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know, is that Andy has the total freedom to be able to change gears like at the last minute, to be able to take care of something that is very important for him and his family. And he's got a team around him that's helping him out. As a matter of fact, Andy helped me out immensely. See, I just went through some major back surgery. If you're somebody that follows Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Radio, you've probably heard me talk about this already on the air, so I won't go in depth. But let's just put it this way. I went from what was supposed to be like an hour and a half surgery to a 7.5 hour surgery. The doctors determined literally the night before the surgery. Okay, Friday before the surgery. Surgery was scheduled for Monday, so nobody works on the weekends, right? Okay, so we're tracking. All right, so they discovered Friday, like midday, that the surgery needed to be way more intensive than we thought it was going to be, because they identified a lot more damage in my spine that needed to be remedied. I'm glad they found it before they got in there, because it's easier for them to do all the pre-planning and then go in and attack it, as opposed to get in there finding out it's really worse than it is, and then they gotta make decisions on the fly, right? Okay, so yeah. All right, so Andy did me a solid. He totally did me a solid, because I didn't think I was going to be gone from radio for very long. As a matter of fact, that surgery was supposed to be very similar to two other surgeries that I had had. And based on how my body responds to all these types of surgeries, I figured at the worst, I'd need a week off. Well, when this change of venue came through, it turned out I needed more than a week off. And, well, as a result of that, we needed somebody to cover for me. So, it was as simple as Andy stepping up to the plate to help me out. So you heard a lot of Andy Webb on the shows that I do, because Andy was taking care of me. He was totally taking care of me, because I was laying in bed. I wasn't getting enough pain medication. Life was terrible for me. And the idea of doing a radio show, well, there's just, did I want to do it? Yes. Was the desire there? Yes. Was the capability there? Oh, heck no. Heck no. And so now this is just an opportunity for me to help out my fellow radio man. Yeah, it's really cool. And I will do it in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. If anybody on the Lifestyles Unlimited Radio Network needs to take some time off and, they need somebody to fill in for them, I'm available, because I completely control all of the time in my life. I do. I completely control all of the time in my life. I actually control the time that I do this radio show. Believe it or not, I control the time. If I wanted to shift it, I could shift it. Now, I would also have to take into consideration that by shifting it, I would be affecting other people. Okay. And it's not just like, all of a sudden, poof, I can make a studio appear, because they're scheduling things like that. Does that make sense? It does make sense to you. But at the end of the day, we're so well organized here at the Lifestyles Unlimited Radio Network, we can make last-minute decisions that could materially affect what we do, but it doesn't. It doesn't affect it at all. So the reason you're hearing me today is not that I feel like I owe Andy something, although I do. I actually do. I appreciate the fact that he was willing to drop whatever he was either going or not going to do to step in and give you the great radio content that you tune into the show to get. So now it's my turn. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do exactly what I told you I was going to do in the last segment. I'm going to say some really nice things about Andy Webb, things that you may not know. Yeah, I'm serious. Now, Andy, first of all, okay, if you've ever met Andy, first of all, the first thing that you'll notice is that Andy's a tall guy. He's a tall, thin guy, and he's got a great head of hair. I'm talking like, yeah, this guy, he could be in any rock band. Yeah, that kind of hair. Now you know what I'm talking about, right? He's got that cool, if he wanted to be in a rock band, he could be in the rock band because he's got the hair, he's got the look, chicks dig him. Okay, I'm not saying you should be going after Andy because he's a happily married man. Let me make that very clear. But what I'm describing for you is a guy that's he's completely different than me. Yeah. If you've ever seen my hair, when my hair grows out, I look like a chia pet. When his hair grows out, he looks like he could play for any rock band out there. Even if he didn't know how to play, he could do that Milli Vanilli thing, just sit there and pretend, move his lips. Yeah, okay. But that's not what makes Andy Webb up. Yeah, that physical component of Andy Webb, that body he resides in, okay, he got lucky. He got, in my opinion, he got a great body, but he also got a great mind. He has a beautiful mind. This man, I mean, when you look at him, and this is what I love about Andy, okay? And Andy, and I know you're going to listen to this, and I'm going to get a text from you, so I'm just going to say it anyway. Andy's the kind of guy that you would look at and you would get an impression of what that guy is based on his physical appearance. Yeah, this is where I'm going. Yet, when you get to know the man behind the hair, you find out that guy is really the same guy. He's really the same guy. The problem is your perceptions are wrong. None of that is true. Now, he might play music. Okay, this will be honest with you. I don't know if Andy plays music. I've never really asked him if he plays music. So he might, but all that other stuff, all those other preconceived notions, none of them are true. Let me just tell you a little bit about this dude's background. Okay, first of all, he is fluent. When I say fluent, I mean fluent. In other words, this guy is like level 4 out of 4 levels when it comes to languages. And the languages he speaks are many. Yeah, many. Okay, so he speaks English. Yeah, you and I both know that because you listen to him on the radio show, and that's the language he busts out, right? It's the language we expect to hear when we turn into the radio station, right? So we hear Andy speaking English, and his English is excellent. Andy has excellent grammar. Al has terrible grammar. Just ask his deceased 8th grade English teacher who's still rolling over in her grave because she was unable to impress upon me things that were important. But see, to guys like Andy, that was important. As a matter of fact, he's not only proficient in English, he's proficient in German, Russian, Spanish. Shall I go on? Well, I will. Stick around. Let's come back from the break, and I'm going to get more into Andy's story.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, not because that's the way it's set up, but because of the knowledge.
When put into action, knowledge is power. At Lifestyles Unlimited, we empower you to live the lifestyle of your dreams through passive real estate income. For over 30 years, our successful members share their knowledge through case studies, classes, and mentoring. Tap into the knowledge. Attend a free workshop online. Register now at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the show. No, it's not Andy Webb. It's Al Gordon, proudly sitting in for Andy Webb because Andy is doing some important things with his family right now, and he needed me to step in, and here I am. So hopefully I'm not disappointing you, but what I am going to do for you is I'm going to spill the beans on Andy. I'm going to tell you all these great things about Andy that Andy may or may not have gotten around to telling you over the airwaves. Yeah, because Andy is not a braggart. He is not a braggart. He is not. He is a grounded, and I find him to be a humble man. I have found him to be that. And this is what I love about Andy the most. His physical appearance gives you an impression that he's like one type of way because of the false beliefs that you have been taught through your life. But when you get to know this guy's got it all dialed in. Plus, he's got the great rock star hair. Now, he did cut it a while ago, and I did. That was the first thing I mentioned to him. Was like, dude, what did you do that for? And he's like, just looking, look for a change. But I think he's growing it back out. So we're going to find out. Anyway, 4 languages that he is completely fluent in. 4 languages: English, German, Russian, Spanish. Okay, I'm not sure he's 100% fluent in the Spanish piece, to be honest with you. But I'm 100% sure he's fluent in the German and the Russian piece. And here's why I know this. Andy, like me, probably like you, like all of America, he did. I was going to say we did, but we're talking about Andy. He did everything he was told to do to be successful in life. He was told by parents, by teachers, by guidance counselors, by a myriad of people that had influence in his life from the time he was very small and very impressionable up until, well, today. People have been imprinting information into Andy's mind. And for the people that Andy had complete trust and confidence in, he probably believed, like I did, probably like you do, he probably believed that anything coming out of that individual's mouth was probably 100% accurate. But here's the problem. We're all human beings. We don't get it 100% accurate 100% of the time. That's just the way it is. That's why we don't live in a perfect world, because we are human beings and we are not perfect. Therefore, we live in an imperfect world. We navigate through it the way we navigate through it. So Andy did what he was taught to do, which was do well in school. He did well in school. He did so well in school that he was able to go to a little place that we all call college. Yeah, that big thing that we all dream about, that thing that maybe our parents either couldn't afford to go to, or that thing that, well, maybe they weren't smart enough to go to, or maybe they just didn't have the desire to go to because they really didn't understand what that college was all about, what that university thing was all about. And then as our parents maybe didn't do those things, and they grew up through life and they started looking around to their left and their right, and they started realizing that the people that they're working for, who maybe aren't much smarter than them, the thing that they had was a college education. So they start connecting all these dots and they start saying, okay, well, when I have children, definitely I want them to have a better life than I've had. And clearly, if my life were to be better, I should have done that management track, right? Right? Okay, so that's where these ideas are formulated. You understand that. And these ideas become impressed upon us. Now, I don't know whether or not Andy was the first one in his family to go to college. I don't know that at all. I know that I was the first one in my family, well, not necessarily to go to college, but to graduate from college. Yeah, my father came back from World War II, did a little bit of time in college using the GI Bill. I guess it really wasn't for him. Whatever the deal was, he never completed. Okay, so it was up to me to become the first person in the Gordon generation, so to speak, the Gordon household, to complete college. Now, I don't know if Andy was the first one or not, really doesn't matter. But he knew he needed to go to college because he knew that if he was going to achieve success that was greater than the success that he thought he was capable of, college was that magic key, right? Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's not. It's not. College is big business. College is very interested in protecting its endowments. College is very interested in controlling 4 or 5 years of your physical life because that is their profit center. Yeah, you heard me correctly. And don't give me those arguments about, well, all these state-run colleges, they're all nonprofits. Okay. Why don't you go look at their financials? Okay. Look at their financials. And granted, they are operating as a nonprofit should operate. But why do they have these massive endowment funds? Why don't you ask yourself that question? Yeah, that's the question you got to ask yourself. Back to Andy, though. So he decides he's going to study Russian. Now, why Russian? I'll let Andy answer the question. And here's the thing. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because, first of all, I want you to become a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. That is first and foremost important, because with that membership, you're going to learn the same things Andy and I have learned that have caused both of us to achieve retirement. In other words, we don't have to work anymore. Now, we are not reliant upon a job. We're not reliant upon somebody else or something else that we trade time for money for. That's all in the past. We've killed all that. We don't have to do that anymore. Okay? Back to Andy. So he decides he wants to, oh yeah, by the way, when you become a member, that's the part I left out. When you become a member, I want you to meet Andy. And I want you to ask him, dude, why Russian? Because it's a heck of a backstory. I don't have time to tell you on the radio. It's a great backstory. It's definitely a great backstory. Get an adult beverage, sit down with Andy, and have him tell you why he decided to, right out of the gate, go learn Russian. Yeah, it's a really cool story. So he spent like 2 years going through a intensive language institute in a little place called Moscow. Yeah, and I don't think it's Moscow, USA. I think it's more like Moscow, Russia. So he went to that country and immersed himself and learned that language. He did. Now, prior to him going to Moscow to immerse himself in that language, and also after returning from Moscow after immersing himself in that language, this is like a 2-year program, okay? 2 years. I'll tell you, if you dedicate 2 years of your life to anything, you should obtain some level of success, okay? And Andy has. He is fluent in Russian. As a matter of fact, one of the things that he was doing on either ends of that was he was attending a university in the state of Texas that just happens to be called the University of Texas, the original one in Austin, Texas. So he was going to school there working on his Bachelor of Arts, and he was studying not only Russian, which, okay, now you start to understand why he took off for 2 years to go immerse himself into Russian, because it was dialed into what it was he was trying to learn. But he was also immersing himself in German language, but he didn't necessarily need to go to Germany. I'll tell you what, I'm having a blast talking about Andy. Yeah, I'm talking about him to the world, and I'll tell you why. I love this guy. I really do love this guy, and it is a love of my human man, friend, person, whatever pronouns you want to use. I love what this guy is as a person. I love his family. I love the fact that in his 40s, he was able to destroy a corporate career. He was able to completely walk away from a corporate career, and he was able to do it 100% on his terms and conditions. Yeah, 100%. Completely different than my approach. Yeah, my approach was, hey, dude, you got 27 years in the Army. You're a lieutenant colonel. We're thinking about promoting you. As a matter of fact, here's a letter that said that we boarded you and we selected you for a promotion, so you should be good to go. But the problem is, just because one part of the Army does one thing, another part of the Army might be doing another thing. And as a result of that, what ultimately happened was, for me, there was no position to promote me into, because all the positions that I could have gone into, well, they were already filled with other people that were either waiting to get out or they were looking for their promotions too. This is kind of the craziness that happens in the military. So as a result of that, my dreams of continuing to serve, well, they were thwarted, and I left the military on their terms and conditions, not on mine. Andy left corporate America on his terms and conditions. And let me just break out the differences between how he was able to do it compared to how I wasn't able to do it. Is that fair? Okay. So the first thing you need to know is that Andy has been a member of Lifestyles Unlimited for a lot longer than I have. I mean, he's lived up in that Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he became a member a long time ago. Yeah, he became a member a long time ago. And one of the things that he figured out immediately after he went through the educational programs that we provide, because that is the most important component to being a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. You have to sit through the education. And I know some of you go, oh, dude, I can't do school anymore. I just can't do school anymore. Okay, neither could we. Trust me. Yeah, the idea of sitting through a bunch of classes where you're going to hit me with a fire hose information, not appealing to me. Definitely not appealing to a guy like Andy, okay? But Lifestyles Unlimited, we actually make it pretty easy for you because it's all dialed into teaching you the information that you've been desiring to have the answers to for so long. Yeah. And with that education, you're able to determine what your own customized roadmap looks like. Yeah, see, Lifestyles Unlimited, we call this retirement thing, it's really a roadmap to financial freedom. And we make no bones about it. This is not a, hey, show up tomorrow, we'll make you retired the day after. That's not how this works. It's going to take about 5 years. For some of you, it's going to take a little longer. For others, it's going to take a little bit less. Everybody is in a different place financially when they start. They're also in a different place in their life when they start. We're completely aware of that. And we have plenty of members that have probably already been in your particular shoes that you should get to meet. Because when you start forming relationships with people that have walked in your shoes already and they're already a couple miles ahead of you on the trail, wouldn't it be nice for you to catch up with them and kind of go, hey, can you give me some tips about, what I'm about ready to go through so that it's not as painful on me as maybe it was on you? And you know what a Lifestyles Unlimited member would tell you? Absolutely. Absolutely we'll do that for you. Because that's what we're all about. This is a membership-based organization. We are members helping members achieve financial freedom. And that financial freedom starts with the retirement piece. That's the thing that I was able to achieve 2 years after becoming a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. Now, it took Andy longer than 2 years because Andy was in a completely different place than I was when he became a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. As a matter of fact, he became a member before I did, okay? But his game plan had him buying single-family assets because that's what made the most sense for him. And one of the reasons he wanted to do that was he wanted to get his wife retired as quickly as possible. And what he figured out based on the analysis that he did as he built his 5-year plan, he figured out that those single-family assets were the way to go. So he went after single-family assets, and he started learning everything that he could about these assets, how to find these assets, how to buy these assets correctly, how to not overpay for these assets, how to understand what it takes to rehabilitate the asset. In other words, to bring back its glory years into that asset itself, to make that property the nicest property in the neighborhood like it once was. And then to properly operate that property, take care of the people that are living in that property, and make sure that they are doing the things that they have contractually agreed to do. See, Lifestyles Unlimited taught Andy all of that, and he put it all into practice. He put it into practice, and he started making money. He started making cash flow. He started growing his wealth. And at a certain point, he retired his beautiful wife. He completely retired her. She didn't have to go back to work anymore. Now, for you moms out there, and I think their child was about 2 years of age when, or maybe even younger, when they got Jenny retired. Here's the beautiful thing. She's raising her child. There's no one else raising that child. There's no one else imparting whatever they feel like they want to impart on that child except for Jenny, because she's in control. She no longer has to give up her child to somebody else for daycare while she goes to go do this work thing, because we've conditioned ourselves in this country that everybody needs to work. And I think it's ridiculous. So Andy got Jenny retired, and that was a huge multiplier in their life. But here was the problem. Andy was still working. Yeah, he was still doing that corporate job. And he was looking for an exit strategy too. But here's what happened to him over time. Those assets that he initially began buying, well, they started improving in value. And he was able to do things with those assets, either sell the asset, buy additional assets with it, or refinance the asset, take money out of the asset, avoid any tax problems at that time, because a refinance doesn't trigger any capital gains taxes. It doesn't trigger depreciation recapture. It doesn't trigger any of that stuff. So you just take the money out of the asset. Now, keep in mind, you're going to pay a little bit more for the money, so your cash flow will go down on that asset, but you're going to get another asset or maybe two more assets. And see, that's what Andy was doing all this time. He was trading in one to buy two, or he was refinancing one to get a second one and possibly a third one. And what you're hearing me tell you is what Andy did to get himself to a point where he was able to go to his employer and say, look, I really don't want to work full time anymore. Would you guys be interested in me working part-time for you? And his boss was receptive to that. And one of the reasons Andy was able to go to part-time status was because the real estate was providing the income streams that he needed that allowed him to walk away from half of that job. But he still had a problem, because he still was obligated to, about 20 hours a week to his employer. Now, it's a little bit easier to handle 20 hours a week versus 40, 50, 60 hours a week, right? Y'all can agree with me on that, right? But here's the thing. He's still giving up 20 hours of his life trading time for money. And he didn't need to do that, because he was actually at a place in his life where he was able to position himself and pivot away from that part-time job. You heard me correctly. He pivoted away from that part-time job. And in March of 2022, my good friend Andy, at the ripe old age of 40-something, wrecked his career. I am so proud of him. I'm about ready to go to tears. I am so proud of him, because now he is 100% retired. He's using his real estate to finance his lifestyle. He has spent the good portion of the pandemic, when most of you were locked up, you know what he did? He bought an RV. Yeah, he bought an RV. He figured, I can do the part-time job in the RV, and let's go see the world. Let's start with America first, since it's kind of hard to drive those RVs across the ocean. Okay, you can put them on a ship. I get that. But let's go see America. He's been all over the place. He's done his radio shows from all over the place. He'll go down to a place like Corpus Christi, which is like, 2.5, 3 hour drive from me, which makes it like a full day drive for him. He'll go down there and he'll hook up with some of our Lifestyles Unlimited members. And he'll say, hey, man, I'm in town. You want to have lunch? And they go, yeah, let's have lunch. So he'll actually do his radio show with them while they're having lunch at the property. And he's got firsthand knowledge. And this can be you too. You too can be 100% retired.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement